Okay, let's kick off. I think and others can join in a little while as we go along. Conor Healy here, CEO of Cork Chamber. So fantastic to have such a great audience joining us this morning for this really exciting and interesting topic of Cork City revitalisation. The future is now, and it sure is. And it's the start of our third series of our Sustainable Cork program webinar series, which actually we kicked off, which has been hugely successful in terms of providing a great platform for discussion on all things sustainability related over the last few years, which actually kicked off as a program in the midst of the early phases of COVID, I think back in May 2020, and has gone from strength to strength over that period of time. So I think a positive that came out of that particular period, one of few positives in that particular period of time. The program is really important to us, but we're really delighted to have some fantastic partners and sponsors on board for the last period of time. And again, great to have those on this year. So we have Gas Networks Ireland, Matheson and Cork Chamber Skillnet. So hi and good morning to representatives of each of those partners and sponsors who are joining us as well today. We have some really expert speakers and presenters and panelists with us today, and delighted to have Dr. William Hines. He's a chartered town planner, chartered surveyor, urban and regional economist, and probably best known the last while as managing director of KPMG's Future Analytics. And Billy, it's great to have you with us today, and working with the Chamber again, as you have done in the past. And also fresh from fantastic success on the Cove project. We'll hear a little bit more about that in a while. Julia Villoni, the senior architect in the Capital Projects Implementation Unit at Cork County Council. And likewise, Julia, it's fantastic to have you with us today. And the person in the middle who's going to manage it all and facilitate is Shane Clark, who's Director of Operations at the VQ. And he will tell you all about the VQ when he comes on there in a little while. So just a tiny bit of housekeeping as always. I suppose try to keep those mics off, so it just improves the quality for everybody. As you would have seen, we're recording the session, so you would have accepted that as you came in there. You can choose your view of the next hour, either gallery or speaker view, whichever suits you best. And Shane will be facilitating a Q&A as well at the end. So use the chat box to get those questions in there. And I think we all find that as a question pops into your mind as we go along, it's as easy to put it up as you go rather than waiting to put those in at the very end. So I'm really looking forward to the next 50-55 minutes or so. A lot of really topical. We have the expert speakers. We have a great facilitator. So with enough said for me, I'll hand over to Shane. Good morning.
Conor, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Could somebody wave at me and tell me that I'm being heard? Great. Okay. Listen, it's a real honor for me to be part of today's webinar. It's a subject that's very, very close to my heart. In terms of the VQ, where I'm now the Director of Operations, exiting from being CEO at Nanonagle Place. Just a few words on what the VQ is, the Victorian Quarter. It's a business membership organisation. We've gone from being a voluntary organisation to being a company. And I suppose our priorities over the next couple of years are to work with the council to help deliver their really rather fabulous forthcoming public realm scheme on McCurtain Street and Bridge Street. That will absolutely transform the area, and it'll be an exemplar for the rest of the city. To match and hopefully improve on, to be quite honest, the amazing outdoor dining experience on Princess Street, because we are a centre of sort of grown-up going out in the VQ. We want to draw investment and businesses to the area, and you'll have seen many new businesses, exciting businesses across all different sectors on McCurtain Street and beyond. The boundary, I should say, is sort of McCurtain Street down to Kent Station. Lastly, in terms of the top priorities, is to work with the Chamber, of which we're very proud members, and Cork City Council in terms of realising or helping them realize their very ambitious schedule that's going to come from being part of the European Climate Neutral Project. So that's very exciting for us and for our members. So that's my background. We have a stellar lineup of speakers today, as Conor noted. Dr. William Billy Hayes and Julia Vallone, both have a very long and award-winning track record across urban development, it'll also become quite apparent in their outlooks that that's a very multifarious and multidisciplinary field, though they will perhaps concentrate on bespoke areas today. My plan today is to do the following. First, to introduce the speakers. I then might ask the speakers just to very quickly respond to each other in about 2 minutes to their presentations. Then I shall open the floor to you, the members and the guests. And in doing so, if you might give us your name and your organization, and a question rather than a statement would be better. I do believe we have the facility such that you can come on live on screen, and my colleagues in the chamber will be able to facilitate that. Then I might ask at the end, we do want to finish on time at about 10 to midday, that again, the speakers very, very briefly in about 2 minutes give a response to the morning and the things that have come up, and then I'll hand back to Conor. So let's get going. Just to expand on what Conor said with regard to Dr. William Hines, or Billy Hines. William has extensive experience providing expert advice to public and private sector clients in the area of strategic, spatial and economy planning, including at the national, regional and local levels, across demography, housing, economic analysis, forecasting, with data being central to much of that, I think, as will become clear. William is also, which I didn't know, a visiting professor at UCC. So I'm going to hand over, Billy, to you. You have 10 minutes, and then we'll look forward to hearing from Julia. So floor is yours, Billy.
Thank you very much, Shane, and thank you, Conor. And you're very welcome, everybody, this morning. I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see my screen okay? Sorry, just give me 1 second. Can everyone, you can see my slides okay? Yeah.
All good.
Yeah, brilliant. So my presentation this morning, apologies, I couldn't see it pop up whether I was sharing or not on my my slideshow screen. So what I'm presenting on this morning is on placemaking and place shaping, which has become really topical, particularly over the last number of years when we've been in the pandemic situation, where really kind of local level activity has become the norm for us. And in understanding the placemaking, place shaping, data and evidence-based information is absolutely key, what we found, to decision making. So I'm just going to kind of give an introduction to that and what it means, and then show you some examples, one that we've worked on and one that I found really fascinating, that has just been launched there in the last 2 weeks. So what is the importance of placemaking and place shaping, and what are the benefits that one can extract from it? I suppose first and foremost is that placemaking and shaping has to be for all of the community, not just a particular sector, but it has to be community wide and all of the players within that community. And what you're trying to create by really successful making and shaping is places that are active, the public spaces in particular. And again, you're looking for improved quality of life. And you want to, again, over the last number of years, that's happened, but we want to really attract and retain our talent. And that's talent, it's not only our workforce talent, but it's also talent in the communities, talented leaders, talented activists, and particularly the talented youth. We really want to retain and attract in as well that talent. And again, you want to look at the wider range of investment priorities in the areas within housing, transport, entertainment, and recreation. And again, by looking at this and by really providing good shaping and making places, economic competitiveness really can stand out. And again, about creating jobs and retaining those talented workers within those. And again, it's very very often a result of this is that the urban services and the tax base and the revenues grow, and actually the whole lift then happens right across that urban center, because of the investment, because of the quality of life, the attractiveness of a place. The whole place gets lifted. And again, within that, the public realm, community engagement, and the performance by the local government again can really be enhanced. And again, it's the need to preserve, restore, and improve the historic urban form can really be of an important value, particularly given the very deep historic value and nature that we have in many of our urban towns and centres across Ireland. And it's very important to preserve, restore, and improve on that. So that's basically what can result from really good placemaking, place shaping. And what then in terms of the information, what can the information tell us and help us to do within this making and shaping space? I suppose very at a very high level, it can help define our objectives. You know what I mean? So what results do we want to achieve from our interventions, from our actions, from our investments? And again, get the best results from that using the data. Again, the data can allow us pose questions, you know, in terms of what questions do we want to be asked about our urban area, our town, our community, our citizens, you know, what questions can be posed to them and what can be asked of them. And again, it allows for enabling constructive and informative collaboration and consultation, and engaging again all of the community. And I suppose at the center of placemaking and place shaping is that collaboration and consultation, because who knows the place better only than the people who live and work and engage in that urban fabric and that urban core. So getting the person's engagement and viewpoint is really important. And again, how you present and visualize the data is really important to make it for clearer understanding, to give deeper insights, to show patterns of analysis, and again, really get the message across of what the information is telling us and how we can make the place better. And again, finally, drawing conclusions and making decisions, looking at what if questions, providing guidance, recommendations, evaluating the impacts, etc. So making sure that the interventions and actions that we're putting forward actually are having a meaningful impact. Just one project then that we've been directly involved in, and it's going out on draft, it's in draft at the moment, it's going out on public display in the next week, is where a project that we've worked on with Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and it's called the Omagh Place Shaping Plan up to 2035. And in that, what we looked at and worked very closely with the council and with the community, and you'll see the levels of community interaction that we had. And again, how can we transform, or how can we as all with the council, the people and ourselves, transform Omagh and put it at the heart of Tyrone? And in doing that, what we looked at in terms of the data and helping us, again, formulating those questions, posing those queries, getting the community involved, coming up with recommendations and actions, we looked at various different data sets and did analysis of that. And some of these are just giving you a snapshot of the analysis that we undertook. So again, defining the settlement boundary is very important. And very often those boundaries are very fuzzy, because while in administrative purposes, they can be very definitive, but in interactive purposes, the fuzzy boundaries all the time happen. And people generally are not really interested in the definitive boundary. They just want to make sure that the urban core and the urban center is working. Land use activity, again, how are the land uses interacting? Are they linked together? Is there good connectivity? Is there good permeability within the land uses? And again, the social infrastructure, everything from schools, education, healthcare, etc. Very important to understand how those are integrated into the urban core. And population change, as we know, everything from, in my opinion, hinges on the people and on population change, and being able to respond to that dynamic changing space, you know, in terms of age profile, gender, culture, etc., to understand that and to be able to respond to that in your plans. Looking at vacancy has been a big issue over the last number of years, right across Ireland and beyond, and really understanding that and how one can respond to that vacancy and bring it back into use. Car parking, cars tend to dominate our towns across Ireland. And again, they have a place, but they don't want to, you don't want to make them dominant, and be able to integrate the facilities for car parking within the town centre. Walk times, again, very important. And I'll come back to this on my final slide about the neighbourhood, but understanding walk times, being able to understand if there's barriers to those walk times, if there's areas that are impenetrable, and how can they be opened up. And again, the data can allow you to determine that, and again, put in interactions or interventions to overcome any barriers to movement. Affluence and deprivation, again links back into the population change. You want to reduce deprivation as much as possible and increase the whole affluence of an area for all concerned. And just in terms of the collaboration and consultation that we undertook in the OMA plan, we did 4 types of surveys, and you can see a screenshot of them there. And they were really focused. So we did a business survey, again, getting the views of the businesses in the town. We did a community and voluntary sector survey, understanding what the community want to say and to hear what they have to say. We did then a general public survey, absolutely getting the wider views of not only the people that are directly involved in the community or voluntary sector, but also the wider public, really understanding how they interact with the town, whether they're a resident within the fixed boundary, or they're in a neighboring area, in a rural area, but how they interact and work with the town. And then we had drop-in sessions, again, where we had over a number of days, people could come in, give their views, have a chat, see the workings of our outputs on the wall, and say, give their points of view about potential actions, potential opportunities for the town. So that was our OMA placemaking. And I just wanted to give you an example here. And I thought it was a fascinating project that just been launched in association with the New York Urban Design Forum, the New York City Planning Department, and the New York Mayor's Food Policy Department. And what they've come up with is this, what they've called a neighborhood fair. And it's really a toolkit all centered around food, and it's an interactive toolkit where it's really bringing all of the neighborhoods together within New York City, but centered around food, and the main players with that, the citizen, the food producers, the food facilitators, the food sellers. And again, they've come up with this really interactive toolkit, but they've housed it on food. And I thought that was a fascinating, a new venture. And as you know, food is at the heart of our urban towns in Ireland. We have all of our urban towns mainly are centered around marketplace, and the trading and the selling of food over decades and over centuries. And I thought it was a fascinating opportunity that we can learn from this. And again, just very quickly to look at what are the major, say, tools within the toolkit. So they're looking at areas of like urban agriculture, of the community garden, of the small edge and processing facilities, of how the movement of this happens within a big city center area. Again, looking at the markets, and looking at the the grocery stores, and particularly waste is a big part of it. How can the whole food waste, which is a big issue at the moment globally, how can this be reduced? So again, being resilient in our neighborhood and using really simple tools to look at this connectivity between the people and the place. And my final slide then is to show, going back to the whole neighborhood concept. And we've all heard of the 15-minute city, but it's really important to understand that within a context of a 15-minute neighborhood within our town settlement centers. And again, it's to provide excellent livability for all of the community, to meet and provide for their needs. And a couple of key metrics around that, of how are we achieving the 15-minute neighborhood successfully, is looking at housing affordability, diversity, and security of housing, mobility, the ability to walk, to move safely and in a sustainable manner, the whole economic perspective, looking at the local shops, the local employment opportunities. And again, that goes back to the New York City initiative. Education, again, serving local needs and having an accessible school level for the young of the neighborhood. Community and community services, and again, to improve that engagement. And at the heart of it then is well-being, being accessible, having good areas of play, recreation, public spaces that are very linked and interactive. And I suppose the last point to make is that the 15-minute neighborhood has now reduced down with the emergence of COVID over the last number of years to a 1-minute neighborhood. So understanding what's right outside your doorstep, what's on your street, what's on your local road, and being able to engage with that at a really local level. And thank you very much.
Billy, thank you very, very much. That was fascinating. I'm sure some more detail will come out in the conversation. I actually love the idea of the 1-minute neighborhood. Many of those online, perhaps yourself as well, will have kids, and actually it's the 1-minute neighborhood that's the real thing for a 7-year-old. You know, we adults can go and get our stuff in 50 minutes. So that's actually a great concept. I love that idea. Billy, I might ask you when Julia's finished to comment on hers, and then she will have a little bit of time when you're giving your summation that she comments on yours. So I will now introduce Julia Vallone, who'll be known to many of you in Cork, I hope, or she will be very shortly. Julia's a senior architect at Cork County Council, and she's been working as a civic architect for Irish local authority since 2002. Her new role is an urban designer with the capital projects team there, with a very, very clear focus, as will become very apparent, on people and place-centred design. She's a member of the Royal Institute of Architects Ireland Urban Design Committee and the Academy of Urbanism. And Julia is starting to amass a bit of a trophy cabinet. And I hope she'll be able to tell us a little bit about the recent award for the Master Planning and Urban Design Framework for Cove, which was awarded and recognised by her peers in the Royal Institute of Architects in Ireland. So Julia, all over to you.
Thank you, Shane. I will follow up on what Billy just finished earlier there, what is in your street. I've titled my slideshow, All Worlds, a Stage After William Shakespeare. And I would like you to imagine for this presentation to be the actor in a stage which is our city where we live, and to live and see what unfolds every day in the street. It's about creating cities as a stage set and making plays. And imagine if your city square looked like this, where furniture are inviting you to stay longer, to sit and have fun, where everybody is feeling like at home. And of course, working together, today's webinar is about sustainable cities and neighborhood. And these are some of the phrases that we have recalling in the last few years: compact growth, pace-based jobs, bring people back to the town, work locally, the night economy, the circular economy, and how do we try to reduce the car dependency, reclaiming streets from road. And there is a fantastic wealth of policy in Ireland, as one very recently launched is the National Policy of Architecture, Place for People. And of course, we all know about the new European Bauhaus coming from the Green Deal and the climate change, where we are asked and tasked to build sustainable, inclusive and beautiful places. And in order of following this, the challenge is always the same, is reclaiming the stage and reclaiming the streets to build resilience. So, of course, I like to make sometimes some interesting comparison with Italy, and within an urban fabric of those beautiful towns in the city of Ireland, often under ACA conservation order, we always found that the bigger lorries are actually dictating the infrastructure of the town, while in Sicily, in Italy, we have adapted our Cinquecento car to actually the beautiful road. There are solutions much more sustainable, like micro vehicles, etc., for deliveries, and this is what we should really think about going forward. And that's a beautiful photo for Cork, where I like to say it's all about back to the future. It's all about going back there where there was sustainable transport, there was people on the street, and there was no so much of car dependency. So it's really about rediscover. Everything was there in Ireland 10 years ago. We discover how to live together again in a compact urban environment. It's not only about the public space, about those buildings. How can society transform the ideal for a newly formed household from suburbia to compact urban space? This is the challenge. And here is Sicily again. A sustainable neighborhood in Sicily looks like this. And of course, we have learned from COVID, as you remember in Italy, why neighborhood was so important and how compact density was very important and how the people played out in the balcony to help each other. And of course, if we come back to that reclaimed street from road, what I'm going to show you with Cove is how important is an urban design vision and how important is regulatory policy like audits, like DEMERS, which are very important tool available to architects, for example. The new policy of architecture empowers architects in local authority, what local authority can do in collaboration with community and groups. And of course, you're all familiar with Clonakilty 400, which was a 10 years implementation plan. We delivered and we won awards, etc. But it was made for people with having a design tool as a more important. And when we don't have money, we do actually have a great opportunity in local authority. It's actually to never miss an opportunity for public realm in our towns. And I like to say at every halls and every puddle, there is an opportunity for public realm. And what is placemaking? And Billy was telling us about placemaking. And I like to say that is a creation of authentic places where people feel invested or have an invitation to invest or be part of a collective. It's something where the authenticity comes from the community. It's the love for the place, it's the pride of place. And this, in my experience in the last 20 years in Irish towns, is crucial. And of course, we ask the citizen. We deliver a development of a brief through the citizen, to the local knowledge, and working together. This is Middleton working with Chamber of Commerce. And of course, I like to make sure that, of course, a quality product sells itself. It's not, we need to work with people, but we have to have a very ambitious plan. Cove has been introduced. It is one of our Cork County Council latest challenge and a great plan. This was 100 years ago a plan that was already done based on an urban design concept, and this is what we are proposing. It's a very intense and big, large town center revolution transformation. Is phased in 6 characters area. As you know, it got planning last year in November based on a very successful public participation. We received 722 submissions, most of them positive. And of course, we are glad to share the news from last week that we won the RAI Urban Design Awards. We came second, but also we were acknowledged last year for the NCBI Award, which is the National Blind Council of Ireland, which is a great achievement. So back to what is about this authenticity of the place and how Cove is the Riviera of Cork City, and how important is that we collaborate together and make sure that we enhance the heritage of our places, as I said. Of course, Falch Island is also incredibly crucial in all what we do. And in our submission for Part 8, it was actually important to note that how Cove is important for the city, how Cove is going to become enhance the harbour area, and how important it is. This is an idea of the 18 months of public collaboration engagement that the Cove is based on, and it was based on the full lockdown. So although the restriction, we actually made sure we reached out since the very beginning until the end. And a little bit of, to show you one of the outcome of this public engagement was the promenade is owned, part of it is owned by the Department of Defense. And we actually collaborated, we engaged, and we said, can we use some of your space? I'm sure you don't need all of it. And the great outcome of this collaboration was that they gave us, as you can see in this part of the red boundary, a new area for our park. And it's incredible. In exchange, we designed their own pier, and it was a great deal. This is just to show how councillors come on board. We did a massive engagement on walkabout and workshops, online meeting with the chambers. The Tidy Town group came to Clonakilty community to see the result, to see the outcomes, and spoke and networked with the Tidy Town in Clonakilty. And of course, it's not only when you have a problem that you engage people, you keep that trust and engagement all year. And when we are a local authority, we can do that. This is an example with the Christmas lights and Project Act, and people coming together to be a team with the council. A very innovative strategy for Cove was the master planning of lighting, which is a very new approach in terms of place-making lighting, not just public lighting. This is important for our night economy, and this is very crucial, as well as, of course, our rain gardens and urban greening strategy. This is crucial for cities, and it's very important to have the right competency and the right expertise. And of course, again, to bring people back to towns, we need to be very ambitious, we need to be very innovative, and this is a full strategy of street furniture with USB charger, coffee table, solar panel canopies, etc. I have a little video to show you just to the plan, and I'll come back to you in a moment.
The historic seaside town of Cove is set in the second largest natural harbour in the world. The Titanic history and Spike Island are just two of its main attractions. Cove town centre is easily accessed from Cork City. Cove abounds with heritage and great access. This project focuses on a people-centred design approach, offering an opportunity to revitalise and fill in the gaps in Cove. What we mean by gaps is green places, active places, pro-social places, safe spaces. Cove's urban design-led approach addresses traffic calming and placemaking through increased soft landscaping and improved wayfinding and accessibility. Cove Urban Design Plan comprises of 6 zones. Zone 1, named Any More Place, is the point of arrival to the town. Through wider footpaths, the proposal addresses maximum pedestrian accessibility and safety. Zone 2 continues next to the coastline along a tree-lined Westbourne Place, leading to a reimagined, fully accessible and playful promenade. Zone 3, the town squares, include new inviting terraces in Casement Square for street dining and community events, even after dark, encouraging the night economy. Zone 6 will offer uninterrupted views of the water along the re-landscaped eastern streetscape with innovative outdoor living infrastructure to encourage people to linger longer. Panning back behind the squares, nestled within Cove's steep topography, are Zones 4 and 5. Zone 4 comprises of a universally accessible Westview Park and a small pocket park, maximising the views of the iconic deck of cards and St. Coleman's Cathedral. Zone 5 will be transformed into the safer pedestrian priority neighbourhood with new designed outdoor spaces for Cove's community and businesses to thrive. Cove's public realm design's philosophy can be described into 3 simple steps. Restore, reveal, redefine the public realm to serve the needs of its community. Added with Cove's historic identity equals a bright future.
And just to finish, Shane, I just wanted to make sure that there is a message here in a couple of details of this plan, because we weren't a knowledge about accessibility, inclusiveness. We are in a timing where we have active mobility funding, cycling, etc. But I really would like to make the point that we need to be inclusive, first of all, and the pedestrian at the top of the pyramid. And what we did in Cove is quite high level in terms of having worked not only with the heritage but also with a new system of approach for accessibility. We have a new product called the Sound Tile, which is at the moment being tested by the NCBI, where we have actually achieved a shared space context which is acceptable from the various disability group. And this is the section to show how important it is that the public space connect with the buildings. We have a vacant vacant problems, a crisis in Ireland. And this is another layer of inclusiveness. To finish the last slide, as I started with William Shakespeare, what we do, Cove is a design where we are now looking for funding. We did it in Clonakilty. What happened when we include people? This is what happened. We have a fantastic footfall, we have inclusiveness, we have places for people, and a stage, as I like to say, to linger longer. Thank you.
Julia, thank you so much, and congratulations on the award. I mean, Cove is remarkable to start with, and I think what's happening here is just inspirational. You know, there's a bespoke project that's been delivered in Clonakilty, and you can see the results down there. I was talking to the chair of the Cove Chamber the other day with my big BQ hat on, and we will be making common cause because we want to send people down to Cove, and Cove want to send people down to us. So congratulations. So what I might do now is, Billy, you know, you talked about data and evidence base. How does that, in positive terms, how does that merge or get the best out of Julia's approach? And then Julia, I might that you might take the baton and answer it from the other side. How do you guys work together to take your skills together to make it really multiply? Sound, Billy? Yeah.
Yeah, I if I just an opening comment, I'm glad I presented before Julia. Because it was really impressive, and I come back to that again. Like, as you can see from the Cove's, say, emerging plan, which is really excellent, like at the bedrock of all that is the information, is the what is our baseline, what is our foundation to build from and to be able to develop off. And again, even as Julia presented in a number of her slides, the consultation and collaboration, and all that is information, all that is rich information that helps feed into the delivery of the really successful outcome of, for example, here, the Cove plan. So again, like the data is, as we often refer to it, it's quantitative and it's qualitative. And when you bring those two data sets together, it can really embed and enrich the whole plan together.
Julia, from your side, in terms of your working with economists and the data side and the data that you collected, such as to inform your plan?
Yeah, so it's crucial, Shane, and evidence-based information. When we did Clonakilty, we didn't have much data, but because it's a bad kind of habit of Ireland anyway, we couldn't demonstrate, with data the before and after, for example. Okay, I have beautiful photo for Clonakilty; they speak for themselves. But it's crucial not only for the beginning, but also for the end of the project when you want to go for funding and you need the data in the planning system. I would like to mention as well the collaborative Town Centre Health Check program, which is available as well, which is also another way to survey, to audit, and to take that information. It is absolutely crucial data.
And can I ask both of you, in terms of, is there, for example, with Cove, is there a baseline, you know, in terms of footfall, in terms of vacancy, in terms of rental, in terms of crime, that, you know, you get a post analysis 5 years down the line, and then you can look at those again. And Billy, is that it often seems we build beautiful things in places, and you know, sometimes it's square pegs and round holes. Things don't exactly fit. You only find out until you occupy your own house. So again, some comments on that and how it looks. What is success 5 years down the line?
Yeah, I think that, and as you touched on there, Shane, like success can come in different forms, and what you write as what you think is going to be the success in your plan could actually be different in actually the outcome as the interactions and the interventions start coming live in the town centre. So how the people and the community engage and work with that could actually be different than what you thought of would be in the first place. So it's important to understand that there's flexibility within those actions and outputs. And also what's very important is what we always leave the client with at the end, and the community with at the end, is a method of evaluating those impacts. It's a very important that that monitoring and evaluation process is not over prescriptive, because then it becomes a burden to actually to deliver on. So you got to make it simple, and that simplicity comes back then to the setting of your actions and interventions, that they can be monitored and evaluated, and that feedback process. And sometimes in that monitoring and evaluation, you might not always get the result or always get the impact that you wanted. That's not a bad thing either, because it's a learning process, and then you can move on and you can say, okay, how can we improve this, or how can we do this different? But more importantly, how can we do this for our next urban centre that we want to work on and want to enhance and bring forward for the community?
Julia?
Well, Shane, yeah, I completely agree with Billy. I think we are now, even from a point of view of a policy and funding agency. I forgot to say, everybody knows perhaps that COVE is a candidate for the URDF funding, for example, and of course there are also public spending code regulation, etc. We do need to have that approach, scientific approach to what we do, and we are looking. We have done, as part of COVE project, for example, we have done a strategic assessment report, we have done business case, feasibility study, we have done a wealth of documentation that not only the brief development with people, but also this approach is essential for funding and to reach that value for money when you are building it, etc.
Can I ask both of you, in terms of, the Cork in this case is aiming to be climate neutral and a smart city, very importantly, a smart city. There's a question here from Roger Hopkinson about the transparency of the data. Often I think towns and cities talk about having what would you call it, a desktop of data. So you might have the top 10 sort of figures. Is that a useful thing to have? It is transparent, it is open. I take your point, Billy, that, you may find in time that some metrics are not important and that others become important, but actually, should we be moving to transparency, which could combat the naysayers and actually encourage the investment in a town or a place?
Yeah, and I'll give you just one example, and it's a smart city project that we're a partner in. It's called Plus City Exchange, and you can Google that. It's an EU-funded project, and we have 2 lighthouse cities, and Limerick City is one of our lighthouse cities in that. We lead work package 7 in that, which is about the monitoring and evaluation of the KPIs, and we've actually built an online dashboard, a monitoring and evaluation reporting tool dashboard, and that is live on the site, that for everyone to see, for all of the data owners, the building owners, for the community to actually see, are we achieving the targets that we set out in this project, or are we exceeding them? And if we're not achieving them, what needs to be done to achieve them? And that's very visible, very transparent, and that is absolutely the way forward. I always remember, and again, there's a really good video on YouTube about it, the mayor of Palo Alto, when they were becoming a smart city, and how they put all of the data out there for the community to engage in. And that is a fabulous example that we all need to be moving towards.
Julia, your side?
Yeah, Shane, definitely there are other countries that have done better than us in terms of sharing data and transparency. I know I've been looking at even Scotland, etc. They have softwares. There are softwares available that you can actually map where people sit, where people go, and as well as part of my research before, I know places like Kildare Village, etc. They do have systems where they measure the footfall, and I know this has been adopted by the Tralee Chambers years ago, etc. So there are ways, and I think we should join forces in this case and look at what other countries do, because there are a lot of tools available there for us.
No, there's a lot of questions in. My apologies if I don't get to them all. I might try and sum up some in a little bit. Just to stay on the data, I could not be more excited about Cork City winning this climate neutral status. And we are supposed to get, a generation ahead of time, moving the dial from 2050 to 2030. But we have a serious problem there with data. We don't have a baseline. So I could just sort of comments on, and therefore that lends itself to greenwashing. Yeah,
I think that there's there would be some level of baseline data, in terms of movement, in terms of population, in terms of employment, in terms of land use, etc., etc. But it's never too late to start collecting the data either. You know what I mean? And you can do that either with, you can have these local cells on your network. You can have sensor technology. There's so much opportunity there now that even data and technology providers are willing to even give for free to test. You know what I mean? And there's a major opportunity there to even to start very small, start locally, start at the street or neighborhood level to test it. And there's a great opportunity around that. Going back to the Limerick project, what we're focusing on there is just the Georgian Quarter at the start. So we're focusing on the Georgian Quarter of Limerick City, the quarter around O'Connell Street. And the most important thing is there, as we're learning, we want to replicate. We want to replicate again within Limerick, but also within other cities. And that's a great opportunity there through that replication and learning again,
Julie, can I ask a question in terms of, it's generally a business audience here, but we all wear multiple hats. I'm a parent, I'm a citizen of the city, I'm all these other things. I'm a walker, I'm a driver, I'm all these things. And when I answer a business survey or answer through the chamber, I answer with all those things on. Can I ask, in terms of the data you got, was there a difference or a tension or a creative tension between what you were hearing from the business community and what you were hearing from the other various communities, all of whom also wear lots of different hats?
Shane, as we did in other project, also in Cove, we did engage, as you said, with schools, we engage with business people, we engage with the Tidy Town, we engage with historians, we engage with different groups, okay? But what I think the approach was the same, the reaction was different, but then the beauty was to unify everybody to discover that in the end, as a citizen, and I am a citizen before being an architect, we all really need visions. We need something to feel our ideal being shared with others. And once you have that, it's very easy to collaborate and to work together. So it's that vision that cannot be just words. It needs to be a drawing, it needs to be an urban design plan. And I can't stress more how important this is when you do it at the very beginning of the stage of the design. So it is that sense of belonging and that sense of team that needs to be done, because otherwise if we are looking at doing plans on a desktop, we're not going to change anything. We just have to be sure that we are forming a team. And to make an example, we work with schools so much, like we bring children to the site and we explain them what the streetscape is or what living above the shop is. So it's that sort of approach that is the most successful one, and we'll cover all the categories that you have mentioned.
Just a comment from me. One of the things that's been a joy about moving back from living for an awful long time in the UK is it's just the treasure that Irish towns and villages are, much neglected and in some cases in awful condition. But there is gold in them streets. The urban fabric is still there. And I think, Julia, what you've done in Clonakilty from a very positive start, and what you've done in Cove is just amazing. And in the metropolitan area of Cork, we've got brilliant, Bandon could be amazing, Middleton is great already, and so on and so on. Youghal, I love. I just think that's just a superb town. Scaling it up to the city, and in this case, Cork city centre. How, can I ask you both, do you take your lessons to a bigger canvas? And there's a question here from, I'm just going to scroll up, from Stacey McSweeney of Brown Thomas. In terms of vacancy and driving, if you can maybe skew your answers such as to driving business investment and footfall into the city centre. So the lessons from the smaller into the small to medium sized city. So not maybe at the Dublin scale, but at the Cork scale.
Yeah. Yes, sorry, Julie, will I go first?
Of course. Yeah,
sorry, apologies. Yeah, I think again, to look at that bigger scale, I think it's about breaking it down again into neighbourhoods or into urban quarters and working very closely with the community in those neighbourhoods and that interaction, that collaboration, understanding what is going on within that spatial area, and getting kind of determining the data, determining what are the key attributes and characteristics, how can they be maximized, and addressing then, say, the deficiencies, be it vacancy, dereliction, poor connectivity. And again, as you break it into those neighborhoods, become very manageable then. And then as you piece those together, it's like a jigsaw, as you piece those together, you can actually see the joined up thinking that's happening right across the city centre, and working with that then to become a better place for all, you know what I mean? And seeing the successes from neighborhood to neighborhood and learning from those and really advancing those. And again, going back to one point about the, and again, in our cities, transport and traffic and congestion is a big issue. And I even look at the really, the very recent example, and I'll draw my example from Dublin, is where the pedestrianised Capel Street. And Capel Street, as you know it, was always a very retail based in the 70s, 80s, very much a kind of a hardware, furniture type street. But now it's transformed. Those activities are still there, still working, but now it's transformed with hospitality, with catering, with outdoor dining. And you saw the example that Julia showed you of Clonakilty, one of the streets in Clonakilty. That is where the likes of Capel Street is going, and it's going to be transformational, and it's already the successes over the last 3 or 4 weeks have been massive. So it can be achieved for the benefit of the business community.
Sean, to add, Clonakilty is 4,000 people, and it is a size of a neighborhood. So I totally agree with Billy. One thing is to answer to that question. I think the answer is not a monocolor answer. It must be a multi-usable and functional street, main street. My son doesn't like to go to the town center because it is only shopping, or maybe it's only food. And it is about making that high quality approach of our public space to attract everybody, not for one function only. I want to say just one thing that I noticed, especially this last Christmas. The shopping center, I live in Blackrock. In Mount Point, the shopping center at Christmas was empty and the town center was full. And guess why? Because with the Christmas light, we transform spaces in a wonderland. And that's what we need. We need to make the city center such a beautiful place that people want to go back there. And I'm sure other generation, they grew up in the city center rather than a shopping center hall. So it is a big ambition to have.
Can I say from the two different, that's music to my ears. I do think placemaking is based in those places and the people who know it and love it. And then I think I would be correct in saying, hopefully you'll agree with me, that you bring in, Julia, your co-design experience, and William, your economic and data-driven experience, but you work with what's there and the people that are there. Can I ask, though, to put some manners on that in terms of, say, Cork City Centre? You know, we have a version of it in the VQ. It's forming, it's bubbling up. It's an iterative process. How does that work for the city centre? That there needs to be a structure that makes it happen. Any thoughts in terms of how these neighbourhood, city centre or larger neighbourhoods actually need to be structured over time to deliver the changes that you're talking about?
Can I answer that first? I think all my presentation is based in one thing. It's based on having an urban design plan led by architects. And that's, as you can see, Clonakilty was done in 10 years. Cove is now designed for the next 10 years. Things don't happen all at once. You have to have a plan. All the policy tells you to have a plan, but it has to be an architects-led urban design plan, and nothing can go wrong with that.
Yeah, I suppose to add to that, I fully agree with Julia. I think you need champions to really drive it forward. The champions of the city authority, the champions of the business community, the champions of the society, be it the residential, the sporting and leisure, all of those champions. And they don't, it's not necessarily being a champion with a strong voice. It's being a champion with a strong heart and a strong vision. And all those working together can really bring massive impacts on the kind of the future growth, development, and, as you say, the preservation and restoration and improvement of our cities and town centres.
Guys, Billy, you may have sort of done what I was going to ask you to close out, but maybe just some quick comments as to what the business community here and how the Chamber should concentrate or should orientate itself such as to help this agenda, both in the metropolitan towns and obviously in this storied, lovely city that we're living in.
Yeah, I think, again, it's all, I think, and we've said this a number of times, myself and Julia, it's about interacting and engaging with the community, not only your customers, but it's also with yourselves, it's with the wider community, the wider societies, but be it through surveys, being it through dialogue, being it through open forum. And it's really understanding that where we're going to, and like as Julia said, where town centres are going to now, and where particularly if you want to look at retail within that, retail is becoming more experiential. So you need to attract and retain people in your town centre, and it's not only just about the shopping. It's about that wider experience, going in there, meeting your friends, doing your local shop, having your coffee, having your lunch, staying for an event that evening or whatever. And that is that wider experience. And that's where the business community can interact, not only with the customers, but within the wider forum, and understanding how that changing experience is required and how they can work with the city authority, local authority to deliver on that.
Julia, some closing remarks on that?
Yeah,
Mary?
no, that's beautifully explained, Billy. I totally agree. And there's already a very good record on the business community of Cork City with beautiful outcomes like Oliver Plunkett Street and Prince Street, etc. I would like to say that there is something we can do, definitely without any money, stop doing things wrong, which means we have such a beautiful heritage infrastructure in the Cork City, and just keep it high and avoiding to lose our beautiful shop fronts, our beautiful. Unfortunately, it breaks my heart every time I see a shop front be changed and be altered. And we have those beautiful photographs with the awning and those canopies. They're so beautiful. At any possibility, let's concentrate on the heritages of those buildings, stop and demolish them or affecting them negatively, because they are really the core of what we can do, attracting people back and selling that value of being able to see from a window in the town center the dome of a church and everything, which is much more beautiful than see a garden with a trampoline.
Julia, thank you so much. Billy, thank you so much. I just, if I can sum up, heritage, we have got such a deep and storied heritage here. That's what makes us different alongside our people. I think design, like you said, has to be to the forefront. We need a design plan for Cork City and for the metropolitan towns that has to be informed by data and evidence, and it has to be transparent. And we need to talk and argue and disagree, but do it around those things. So I think that's marvelous. Thank you so much. And I will hand over to Conor for some closing words.
Yeah, great, Shane. And that was a great hour or so there, and Shane really well summed up, and I think a really exciting opportunity for the city. And look, we are awaiting the publication of the new city centre revitalisation strategy as well, which is I know will be bringing on a lot of the concepts, a lot of the areas that we've discussed here this morning, which is really, really positive. Thank you very much, both Julia and Billy, for your contributions there, and it's great to see both the expertise and the passion coming through in terms of the work and the projects that you've been both involved in. And I think, look, we have a lot to build on. I think in the city there's a lot of activity, a lot of good things. We've got our fairly significant progress being made across both public and sustainable active transport and travel. That's really, really important as a part of this as well, and the whole CMATS plan being brought forward, and obviously aligning with the new 100 cities neutrality piece. That's really going to drive the agenda for the next number of years in Cork, and it really has to be a lever that we all grab onto and use to ensure that those projects move forward more quickly, because they play a major part in everything we've been talking about here today. And again, look, we've seen in the last couple of years as well a lot of major progress across our outdoor dining, 16 city centre streets pedestrianised. That's significant progress in a relatively short period of time. And I think if we look to the experiences of Clonakilty, the plan for Cove, and breaking it down, as was said, into districts and geographies, and applying these principles across it, I think there's every opportunity for Cork City to really make huge progress over the next number of years. So look, I think a really great discussion. Thanks everybody for that, and hopefully all of you who've joined us have enjoyed and maybe taken some ideas and thoughts and good value from the last hour or so. Again, thanks to our sponsors and those who joined us from Matheson, from Gas Networks Ireland, and from Cork Chamber Skillnet as well. Great to have you on board. Thank all of you for taking the time over the last hour. Again, thanks to Billy, Julia, and Shane. Great job on the facilitation. Obviously, as always, to the Chamber team for pulling everything together. So have a great day, everyone. Talk soon. Bye-bye.